I'd like to introduce Chief Riley. He's the next Grand Chief. He's here to speak to us today. It's wonderful working beside him and being leaded and guided along what we're doing. We made history, and it's awesome. And this is Tom Keefer. He's Dispensing Freedom. That's his magazine. He works with us as well. And yeah, you got me good and enjoy.
Okay, hello folks. I'm just going to introduce myself to you and my background so that you you'll realize I do know what I'm talking about.
Speak a little louder, as loud as
Oh,
you can.
okay. Okay, my name is Del Riley. I'm a survivor. I did about 8 or 9 years in both clinic for TB and residential school, but I survived it, and I don't want to get too much into that because it's always tough for me to talk about that. But in any event, I was on the street 13 years old, but I decided I'm going to get an education, and I did. So I was able to find jobs and get myself through high school, and I did that. And eventually I worked in the States, became a machinist, but I came back to Canada, and one of my uncles who was in politics talked me into, he says, Del, you're so intelligent, you've got to go back to university. Well, he talked me into it, so that's what happened. I went back to university, and then I got involved in doing land claims. I became land claims director, and I think I've got about 60 of them solved, including 3 for my own, which I did for my own community. And then a bunch of chiefs asked me, he says, we want you to run for our leadership for Union of Ontario Indians. And I said, I'm not a politician. I'm a technical person. I know all the details. And he said, well, I said, besides, I says, I can't talk if there's more than 3 people around me. And the chief said, well, you'll damn soon learn. So I became president, and I started then to develop this idea that our rights have to be protected somehow, somewhere, and it just happened the constitutional talks were happening at that time. So I got involved. And just being leader of the union, I was able to do a lot of things, and so I researched everything and realized that, hey, if we could just get or be part of the Constitution, the highest law in the land, get the recognition that and affirmation of our rights there, then it'd be a great victory if that happens. I actually had a whole bunch of other things I wanted in the Constitution, but they kind of got scrapped. But these were the main sections I wanted in 25 and 35. 35 protects Aboriginal and treaty rights, but Section 25 should go along with it every time. Every time there's a court case, you have to use the 2 together, because 25 it has several meanings, and I don't know if the MPs knew what or what we were doing, because there was a whole crew of us. I had what I thought was the most intelligent people in the country around the table with me when we were developing the language for this, and so 25, we wanted to get around judges making rulings on your rights. See, your rights were what they were at the time if you did or didn't make a treaty. But in any event, a lot of the treaties described certain Aboriginal rights, you would have them all without having a treaty or surrendering any land. And but you've got to develop this, and someday you probably will. It'll give you just a better, we'll say, a better basis for any kind of arguments that you might have. You've got to understand your rights. So after I got in, I was in Restigouche too, and stopped the, I think, what could have been a gun battle there, and but it so happened. I was just telling them this morning, there was a crazy thing happened. I had John Monroe there. You don't mind me telling all these stories, but because it's going to take me a little time to get down to where I think you all want to hear. But anyway, we had John Chrétien there, John Monroe. And I had my guys, I didn't drink at the time, I had my guys take them around in a truck to the various checkpoints we had set up. They were bunkers, like you're in a war zone. So here we had John Monroe, and then he liked to get into the sauce a little bit. So I had my guys buy 2 or 3 bottles of booze, and they had them just hammered and riding around in that truck in the middle of the night in Restigouche. And he had to get up 9 o'clock in the morning and make his offering from the feds. So when he got into the meeting in the morning, the first thing he says, I got 800,000 here, so I have to leave real quick. He would just, well, his eyes looked like a couple of pea holes in the snow. And, well, anyway, I got this call from the French, I don't know, native affairs person, I guess, whoever he was, but he calls me. And this was about fishing rights. He calls me, and I happened to be in our war room. We had a war room set up to, so we coordinate everything. And he called me in there, and he says, we Quebecois are just trying to make sure you understood our laws. I says, Quebecois, what the hell are you talking about? I said, you're a goddamn Frenchman. You come from France. That's where you should be. He just slammed the phone down on me. But anyway, things settled down. And then right after that, a lot of things were happening in the Constitution. And I decided that, well, hey, the best thing we can do, we got to really pressure them. And I probably met every cabinet minister, every member of parliament multiple times. And I decided that, well, hey, we need better pressure than that. So I opened an office in England, and I started lobbying around the world. That got the attention. And I had Chrétien come to me in one of the committee rooms. Mr. Riley, can I talk to you out now? So I said, okay, sure. Calls me out there. He says, if you will close your office in England, I will give you your protection for Aboriginal and treaty rights. That's how it got in there. So I said, put them there. So we shook on it, and that's when the honor of the crown began. And essentially what it meant was that what we put in there was what we meant. So Section 25 is very important in the sense that it says they can't derogate or abrogate from the meaning of our rights or treaties, which there's a third meaning to this. It means only ones that can do it is us. See, if you read between the lines there, they can't make any opinions or judgments on your rights, but we can. That's the power of it, and they're just starting to find that out. And a lot of places I go now, I occasionally do some court cases, and I'm involved in one now in Nova Scotia, and we had some good luck on it. I was to court last Friday, and we'd be doing all of the background work and making sure that things were followed. Sent letters into them saying that, hey, you really didn't have the right to do what you were doing. You took this man's truck, his nets, and what for? You know, we can't find a reason. And all of a sudden, last Friday, they returned his truck and his nets. Now I got to go back to court to one more. I think they're going to throw it out because they're going to lose because his defense is his treaty. And I know they don't want to face me. I just told them, hey, guys, I can interpret Aboriginal and treaty rights. I put the goddamn thing in the Constitution, and so they usually drop the charges if they know I'm going to show up. I don't know how many times it's happened now, but it happened quite a few times. But anyway, okay, I'll move over now to Indian Act, and I'm writing another book on this one. Probably in 1857, when they put out this law. They were encouraging Indians to become enfranchised so they could be like them, you know. And but they never ever talked to us about the kind of it was an encouragement. Before that, before 1850, they had a law called the Indian Protection Act. Hey, don't mind me, I got one hell of a memory, guys. So yeah, it's called the Indian Protection Act, but and I tell everyone the important. It's important to know the concept of life at that time. The Protection Act was really there to protect First Nation or Indian people on land, because the treaties weren't or reserves weren't all over the place. There were a few out there, but most of them weren't reserves, and Indians needed protection against the incoming settlers who were a lot of times trying to remove them off their lands. So they introduced this Indian Protection Act, and later there was a Rowan proclamation made in 1854. He embraced some of those sections in that, but the Indian Protection Act, one of the important things about it was that it described a lot of First Nation rights that you all have yet. Some rights are described in various treaties. You also have those too. But he endorsed 3 sections, and one was on taxation, another you couldn't be sued, but the important one of that was it applied into all of Upper Canada. And because it was a royal proclamation, you can't take away any of those rights in there. So in reality, you're all tax-free. Oh, it would apply here too in Quebec. Mm-hmm. It would, because it said basically under Upper Canada then, only because he was dealing with about 21 different reserves in Robinson Huron area, and they were trying to fix all the mistakes the Robinson Huron Treaty had, and I don't know if he probably made it worse. It added to the problems they have, and they still don't have them fixed. But in any event, the important thing was he made this a royal proclamation, and it, like I said, it just describes some of the rights you have and still have. And there's rights, for instance, the ladies would be interested in this. and that if you adopted children from any place, they would be on in your nation. They would be back in your nation. And if you married outside, you could bring them into your nation, you know. But this is your rights. It's still your rights. But once they introduced, once the BNA came into place, and this is the problem with the BNA Act in my mind. It was endorsed by England for England's colony, Canada. So they really didn't have the right to make the Indian Act. They had no right, and they never talked to any of us. And besides, what treaty rights you had before then are still there, and it can't be overridden by the Indian Act. Because this is made after, and all your rights under Section 35, they're all protected. Indian Act doesn't protect any rights. And Indian Act was used under the BNA, and it's a real stretch to say 9124 give them the right to formulate the Indian Act. That's a trust statement. It's not anything else, and that's all it should have been. No, it's not a right to make laws. But in any event, they needed the Indian Act in place so that eventually they could introduce a court case that would say that, yeah, they had, well, in this case, it was a St. Catharines milling case, was their main case, it's called, and it essentially divided our lands between the feds and the provinces under the BNA Act, which in terms of our rights would be invalid anyway. And they never asked us if they could include all your treaty area in the province. So, you know, there's a lot of gray issues out there that may never be resolved. But in any case, maybe the important thing in all of this is that in spite of all of the craziness that's happened, all the racism we've had to face over the years, and the genocide our kids had to go, and hey, I don't know how I survived it, but I survived it. I was in 9 years, so that's a long time to be incarcerated. But on the other hand, maybe when I come out, I decided, hey, I'm going to fight racism all my life, so I'm still here, and I think I got another 10 years to go yet. I'm 80. So. But anyway, let's move over to the council for you. Okay, chief and council are products of the Indian Act. They're put in place by John A. Macdonald. And by 1892, he'd removed all the traditional chiefs and put in place the elected chief and council. But the problem with that was that John A. Macdonald didn't give this new Indian Act chief and council any powers. None. And didn't trust them either. Okay, but when the elective system come in, essentially divided most reserves in half, you know, and then one term, 51% one side would rule, and maybe the next term the other 51% would come in, you know, and and people really had no reasons to go at each other, but social conditions were rampant all over the place. So, but that's where they left us. I mean, reserves were concentration camps, and they wanted to confine us more and more so that they could get at the lands and the resources. But they're still yours, and you've got to go after them, though. And that's. But what he's done is a step, and they're I think they're still in shock about all of that. That somehow, hey, he's worked with a provincial landowner marrying in his rights into that, and things are working out. So that's what we're essentially doing all over the place there. Okay, but chief and council, I know all of them be trying to get bylaws made to do this, that, whatever, and never gets approved. And they don't really want to change the Indian Act because they kind of want to keep that that control over Indians. And even though the chiefs and councils, well, actually, they're corporations today. They're not Indian, and they can't own land. Okay, they have just a trust responsibility on your land, but nothing else. And so they're in fact a fiduciary of Indian affairs. They have the fiduciary responsibility to you, but that's not spelled out in any kind of documentation, except if they do something or they've got to pass it up to Indian affairs for approvals, which is what they have to do. But the Indian Act is really a control mechanism and to keep you where you're at, and ensure that you never have an economy so that you'll rise up and fight against this nonsense that they put on us. But and I'm not against Indian Act chiefs and councils. All I've ever wanted to do for them now is to tell them the truth. Hey guys, this is the way life really is. These are the facts I'm telling you. Now, you don't have Aboriginal treaty rights. Chief and council doesn't have it as a chief and council. They do as individuals, but not on that council. And that council has a direct conflict of interest because they are servants of the Minister of Indian Affairs. So, that's their big problem. But on the other hand, ministers never do anything for them anyway, except maybe up the budget a wee bit. Point or two, and they keep trying to protect that against you, locking all the doors all over, and that's happening all over the place. And well, corruption is rampant too all over the place. It's easy to do, I'm a business person. My background is business, so I know all about finances, and I've run a big financial operation. So, but my real expertise is in Aboriginal treaty rights, and now it seems to be I'm doing court cases as an expert on Aboriginal treaty rights, but I can do better than them damn lawyers out there. And I get away with more. Lawyers have to hold the line because they have a conflict of interest. They have an oath to the, well, now king, I guess, but to the queen. And so that, their decorum in the courts has got to be very respectful to the judge. Judge farts and they got to jump, But it's not the ideal kind of defense we need out there. And the system seems to be always used against us, sort of in a backyard kind of way, or the backdoor way. But they'll use a system, and whether it's you're right or wrong, or even if you're right, they'll still convict you. Well, of course, at my age, I even had an Indian Act charge against me. And I beat it myself. I couldn't afford a lawyer. But I think that's when I really got interested in things. It's I think I was 15 or 16. They found an empty bottle of beer, and they tried to blame it on me. Well, I didn't drink anyway, but and then they charged me. well, hey, you just need the word of the RCMP to convict, and that's how it goes. But he forgot to check where the boundaries were. I was over that side of the boundary. Judges, well, they were running up. The judge, case dismissed. Okay, I'm now cannabis shops. What's the situation there? From what I can see, and with my background, my knowledge, you have right to determine what is medicine. Traditionally, you have that right as a nation to determine exactly what that is, because we have thousands of plants that we use for medicine. So this is just another one. But that authority is with your nation. It's not with government or anybody else. Even though they always try to make us justify this, justify that, and sort of in their whatever their frame of mind is. But no, you have the right. And in the East, their treaty says they can set up truck houses any place they want. That applies to you too. And you can bring all of your goods that you want to sell and sell them there. But you've got to put this together to to really understand where you're at on this, and so that's but that'll help you. But that's got to be done, and but you do have that right. Chief and council have no way of stopping you because they have there's no law in place. Nothing in Indian Act about cannabis.
What they do though, what they do.
Oh, they do it, but they bluff. They bluff their way there.
And
Yeah.
then we're sent to the court system.
Yeah, and that's because they've been getting away with that. But now, if you had gone to court and said, I'm using constitutional arguments,
We did that.
whole thing changed.
We tried, but our own police
Oh,
continued.
yeah. But you need somebody that knows it, and I would have got you off. Yeah. But any event, it's unfortunate we got to go this route, but now we're using the rights to help develop economies, because this is actually just a small part of the economy that most First Nations have. There's about 450 shops across Canada, maybe more than that now. Each day it goes up. So, but what else is there out there for us? There's not a heck of a lot, is there? So maybe we got to set up other kinds of businesses in town to take care of the, So there's a lot of it. We're just on a cutting edge right now. I don't know what all we can do, but I think the opportunities are going to be there more and more. But you need to understand your rights, and that's what all I'm going to tell you. That it's so important, and I want you to buy.
Open up a shop, let's say on the res like tomorrow, and we get busted. We call you. You're gonna come and get us out of it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'll tell you what. The answer is absolutely yes. But I don't know if I have the time, because I'm all over the place right now, and I'll do some court cases, but I just got a couple ladies off over the winter down my way, and criminal charges too. But I don't have the time to do that, so I'm kind of saying I got to say no to just the basic cases, and I've handled over 20 cases already, so I know what I'm doing. Yeah, you need to probably have a number of sessions about. Now that's something I can do for you. Show you how to set up and show you exactly what all of those rights are. And that'll be more helpful to you, because that's going to be your basis of setting up any businesses too.
Because we're actually at this point refusing medicinal products to help our own people.
Yeah. They just don't know any better, you know, and I'm finding that's the way it is all over the place. Chiefs and councils won't even talk to me. And, well, except one did. This one was funny. I was giving them an update of my background, and they were lining me up, and they were going to show me where the bear shit in the buckwheat. So, so I said, I did my half-hour, 45-minute presentation. And as soon as I finished, the chief and his counselors come over and stood beside me. Mr. Riley, he said, will you do our land claims for us? That was their response.
So I think if I go, I can answer some other questions.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into a question and answer period now. Yeah.
Let me say something first. I'll make my presentation now.
Okay. Tom's going to make a presentation on that. That's my driver. No.
All right, so greetings everybody. My name is Tom Keefer. I'm of United Empire Loyalist descent, and I've been involved in media production since about the early 1990s. When 93, I started my first newspaper. And you can see some of the magazines there, the Dispensing Freedom, the Smoke Signals magazine, and I also helped Chief Riley edit his autobiography. And maybe we could take a couple copies of the book and pass that around so you could look at that, because those are available, and we'll answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah, this is a bottom line on understanding what Aboriginal treaty rights. And it'll be the only one like that for the next 100 years. There ain't going to be nothing like that.
So I have an academic background in a BA in history, and then a master's degree in 6 years in a PhD program in political economy at York University. And in 2006, I was always a very strong supporter of Indigenous rights. I remember back when the Oka crisis happened in 1990, I was maybe 12 or 13 and wanted to join join the barricades, join the resistance. But didn't have an opportunity to until 2006, when in Caledonia there was an Indigenous uprising against the development of the lands adjacent to the Six Nations community. And through supporting them and being involved in my union, we built a lot of relationships with the traditional people. And since then, since 2006, my main political activity has been working in solidarity with traditional Indigenous people. And that led me one day to be driving through the community of Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory on the Bay of Quinte, and I passed by the very first Indigenous cannabis dispensary that was open. This was a place called Legacy 420, run by Tim Barnhart. And I went in and chatted with Tim and was very interested in seeing what was happening, because Trudeau had announced that he'd been elected on a platform of legalizing cannabis, and cannabis was really making a lot of inroads in terms of overcoming stigmas. And the leading edge of this were medicinal cannabis dispensaries that were providing cannabis to people who needed it to fight cancer, to sleep better at night, to deal with all kinds of problems, whether they be psychological problems or physical problems or different aches and pains. And you can see all these various products that are in the center of the table from Medicine Wheel. And those are some of I'm jumping ahead here. But so Tim was established a medicinal cannabis dispensary. I was shocked when I went in and saw this long lineup of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And it was very clear to me this was medicinal. And this was seeing people almost at the point of tears, saying, "I can't believe this is finally possible," or this is something that is meaningfully helping me. And at this time, Tim was also under a lot of stress because the word on the street was that the police were coming in to raid and this whole experiment would be shut down. And we got to talking, and he is very aware of his rights and specifically of the medicinal aspects of cannabis and the past Supreme Court decisions. And so I said, Tim, why don't we go down to the police station together, and I'll record a video of you explaining what it is you're doing, showing your humanity, showing your intentions, and going to the police to sit down and talk with them and explain them. And I also wrote some letters for him and some articles describing what he was doing, and those got circulated in the community on social media. Local media picked it up, and suddenly there was a narrative of explaining this is why it's a treaty right, this is why it's medicinal, these are the steps I'm taking to make sure that it is a safe product, that it's not contaminated, that you know what's in it, that it's tested, and that it's not coming from black market sources, but it's an indigenous product made by indigenous people in indigenous lands. And the medicine was a central aspect to it. So what ended up happening is that the community understood what Tim was doing, and soon other people opened up stores. And then there was a discussion in the community because it wasn't an entirely, it wasn't a slam dunk case for cannabis, right? There were concerns of, well, there's a lot of talk about cannabis and fentanyl, and there's a lot of rumors going around of spiked cannabis. And to the best of my knowledge and through a study of it, there's no actual cases of it ever being proved that somebody died from fentanyl being put into cannabis. And drug dealers don't generally put a more expensive drug into a less expensive drug and give it away at the less expensive price. But that was a concern, and that needed to be addressed, as well as other concerns and issues around cannabis. Is it a gateway drug? Is it what exactly is it? So the people in Tyendinaga, the traditional people, had a series of meetings to discuss, well, what are the rules and what are the regulations and how should we relate to this? And the band council was like, no, we don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. We're not getting involved. And the community consensus that ended up being worked out amongst the traditional people, first and foremost, was that there was not a need for new laws or new regulations or taxes, but that their people actually already had the full understanding of, well, what is a medicine? What are the responsibilities? What are your responsibilities and freedoms as a person? What is the role of medicine in their culture? And basically, what are the ethics? And from there, it was made clear that the people are free and they have an unlimited freedom, the only boundaries of which are if they are causing harm to other people. If you're causing harm, then, you can't do that. Your freedoms stop and they need to be negotiated, between you and the person you're harming, or the people that support the person you're harming, or the community as a whole. So that first injunction of do no harm was one of the very key messages that was put out. The other key question was, is cannabis a medicine or not, right? And the position that ended up being held as the consensus amongst the Mohawks was that actually all plants are medicine, each and every one of them, and they each have their own particular, roles and their benefits, or how they can be used. And you can harm yourself with just about anything if you use it in a certain way, but if you use it in another way, it can improve and benefit you, right? So do that. Yes, cannabis is a medicine. And then once it was discussed, well, okay, cannabis is a medicine, the question was asked, well, is it our medicine? Is it a medicine that belongs to us, or is this something that came from far away and is a foreign import that we should stay away from? And in looking at the history of the Six Nations, or the Five Nations, the Tuscarora were the people of the hemp shirt. In the descriptions of the Gainalagoa, the great peace, the great law, there's references to hemp and to hemp mats that people sit on. And there was a conclusion that, yes, this is something that our elders consumed and that used, and that, I remember great uncles or our great grandfathers and grandmothers growing. They had a little spot in the garden where they grew this medicine, and that cannabis was being used amongst the Mohawks before Canada made it illegal in 1923. And so they essentially asserted their traditional rights to the plant and a framework of their own self-regulation. And in part of that process, there was also a creation of first a National Indigenous Medical Cannabis Association, and then a Kitigan Cannabis committee or association that delivered some letters to the police saying, okay, this is what we've decided, back off, it's not your job to regulate this. And in the years since this happened in 2016, there's been a massive change in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. I would say that the number of commercial businesses have doubled or tripled. The numbers of houses built has, I don't want to say doubled, but it's very large number of new homes, people being able to move back to the territory to look after their families, and a major change in a kind of positive outlook of things are on the up. It's very easy to get work, and there's a kind of growth that's happening. And this kind of perspective that was developed in Tyendinaga, it spread to other communities. So Rob Stevenson, who's the founder of Medicine Wheel in Alderville First Nation, came to a meeting that the National Indigenous Medical Cannabis Association organized in Tyendinaga in, I believe, January of 2016. And it was similar room to this, and there was maybe a similar number of people, maybe a few more, and they came from all kinds of different communities across Ontario, and they listened to what was being said and the kind of framework around medicine and around traditional rights and how to do it correctly, and that went out and it propagated. And you see there was a whole number of stores that opened up, and I was involved in helping to write their letters, because the strategy is actually to say, this is who we are, these are how we understand our rights, this is how we're taking steps to make sure that nobody is harmed, this is how our products are medicinal and how we're approaching the medicinal angle, and we want to sit down and talk with you if you have any problems. So we did this in Alderville and went to the Northumberland OPP detachment, myself and Rob, delivered a letter. Then they said, okay, we want to talk to you about this. 2 or 3 weeks later, had a meeting with them on reserve with the OPP and explained to them all of the rights and addressed their only real issues were around public safety, i.e. how do we know nobody's going to get ill from this? And how do we know that this isn't contributing to gangsterism and violence and bikers or stuff, right? And so we were able to show this is an indigenous supply. It is being grown and produced and manufactured at standards which exceed Health Canada regulations. And this was the key thing that Medicine Wheel in Alderville and Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga did, is that they were the first stores to open. They made a lot of money in the early stages as they were the only stores open, and they invested it into building incredibly effective facilities for testing, quality control, and for production. So they can beat, like you think of what the fanciest licensed producers have, and Indigenous people are already doing it better. And in fact, it seems to be the case right across Turtle Island. The single biggest dispensary in the world is owned by the Paiute Nation and is in Las Vegas, and I'm told that you can fit a football field inside it. So this has been something that is spread from community to community. On the Dispensing Freedom magazine that you see there, we have a website, dispensingfreedom.com, where at first when I got started, I'd written maybe a dozen or so articles, and I searched the internet to see what came up for Indigenous cannabis, and there was my dozen articles and maybe 2 or 3 other articles. So I was like, let's put those all on the website, build a website, and structure it with keywords so you can find your community and all the articles about it, or the business name and all the articles about it, or the rights issue and all the articles about it. And now there's over 1,000 articles on that website, and I have a listing of 477 indigenous sovereign cannabis shops that are operating across Turtle Island. And they're operating on a sovereign basis. They're not paying taxes. They're giving back to their community. And the vast majority of them are operating on this medicinal framework. Because that is when you make that argument and when you do it that way, there's really nothing that anybody can say, that the Canada can say against your rights. And so it happened that on the North Shore of Lake Huron, there were a whole number of Anishinaabe communities in the Robinson-Huron Treaty area, also in territories known as the Rowan, covered under the Rowan Proclamation. And there had been some 10 Anishinaabe people who had been raided, and the cops had come down and shut them down. And they, of course, reopened and continued doing their thing. And that has developed into a constitutional question and a constitutional challenge, at which Chief Riley is one of the expert witnesses who will be testifying. But it also led to us going and sitting and talking down with the police, the OPP, and the APS. And Chief Riley explained pretty much what he explained to you here, and really kind of came down in terms of what the rights issues were at stake and what the police's actual legal responsibilities were. And in combination with that and the letters, the police were like, "Oh, this is a real headache. We're not getting involved with this." We had a couple protests as well during when George Floyd was killed, and there was protests outside police stations all across the United States, and the APS was doing raids, and then there was a couple protests that happened outside of their offices, and they instantly came out and shook our hands and said, "Okay, we won't be doing that anymore," and there hasn't been a raid since. So in that context, there's the real issues depend on how you frame it. If you just open up a cannabis shop and don't fully explain what you're doing and how you're doing, then you will have difficulties. But if you take this approach, it's proven to work, and I think it's just increasing in the number of stores. When COVID came, one of the things that I found very interesting about how that unfolded is that there was the RCMP had invaded the Wet'suwet'en people out in BC to force through a pipeline on their unceded non-treaty territory, and there was a big resistance movement to that. And it started, interestingly enough, in Tyendinaga when the Mohawks said, "Thou shalt not pass," right? And they didn't actually even block the train tracks. They just said, "No, what you're doing, no more trains through our territory until the RCMP get out of Wet'suwet'en land." And this spread all across Canada to the point that there was 300 road blockades or train blockades happening. The borders were getting blocked. All kinds of protests of 10,000 people in Canada. And then, just as that was building to a crescendo, COVID came, and the government said to the band councils, "Here's $2.2 billion in cash. Close your reserves down, blockade them, only allow the people that that live on the territory to go in and out," and kept it shut down for 2, 3, 4 months. I'm not sure, it varied in time, but the only place that didn't happen was, interestingly enough, Tyendinaga Mohawk territory, where they said, "No, actually, we're not playing that game." Everywhere else they did that, and it crushed the indigenous cannabis industry at that point. Which I don't think was necessarily an accident. And so it meant that a lot of people went online. The people that wanted to buy from native shops couldn't get to their usual spots. And I know one store owner that went from doing $60,000 a day in sales and having a staff of probably about 60, 70 people to $10,000 a day after COVID, when they were reopening, and had to let off so many of his employees. And so this has kick-started a movement where people have said, well, if that's how it's going to be, and the only resources that we have are the non-native people's wallets, well, maybe we'll have to move to where those wallets are and open up trading posts on our unceded territory. So this has happened since the end of COVID. We've seen now there's 25 sovereign native stores that are open in downtown Toronto alone right now that are selling cannabis products. They're selling fish. They're selling tobacco. They're selling all number of different things. There's also 2 stores in London. There's a store up in Moncton that opened up. Another 2 stores in Halifax. So this is happening as a continuation, I think, of the cannabis movement on reserves, now shifting to this broader issue of, well, if you want sovereignty, if you want real freedom, you have to have your own economy, and you can't be beholden to government handouts or programs or a money flow where they can control you by threatening to turn off the taps. So that's the stage that I think we're currently seeing, and the underlying issue about this always comes back to the safety, the medicines, and the fact of making it be indigenous products that are being sold. So you're not selling what the bikers couldn't get rid of, or getting it from whatever. And that's that's been the real focus of Medicine Wheel since day one. And Anthony has built a relationship and is working together with the Medicine Wheel in Alderville to do something unprecedented, to franchise their stores and their approaches off reserve. And maybe it might make sense for me to pass it over to you, Anthony, if you had some words to say about your intent with Medicine Wheel here.
So what we did is we set everything up to franchise, to bring people in and share and open up in Ottawa. So it's an open invitation to anybody from this reserve who's doing the right things. And if you're doing the right things in the community and you want to do the right things in business, you're more than welcome to join the team. And we will support you and help you build. Feel free to talk to me at any time. We give back 3% of each store directly to the community, not to the band, not to the council, right to the people. If, for example, there was a children's hockey game and we were asked to pay for the entry fee, and we were going to do it, but it never ended up happening. Something to do with the registration. So that's just an example of things that we're here to do with the money that's being generated from the stores, because we're operating these stores on unceded territory. It's all our territory. So it's important for us to give back to everybody. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Even safer on reserve. Like, you took a chance on unceded territory in the city, but here we're actually on the reserve. We should be even more protected.
Well, the band works for the government, so.
Yeah.
Well, the band and the chief, they're violating. What they're doing is wrong. They're violating. That's all I can say on that. It's wrong.
But the chief and council were voted by the community members.
They were, but they're not working for the
You can't
community.
just come in here and change it.
No.
We have to understand it. We have to, like,
Yeah.
you're giving us the information. We have to understand that. You just can't
Yeah.
say, that's it.
No.
You
Yeah.
can't do that.
I'd like to say something. I find there's a lot of us in here that is going to remember what I'm going to say. Remember about 25, 30 years, maybe even longer than that, when the these stores first opened, alcohol was legal. And on the reserve, you couldn't buy alcohol anywhere. We wanted to have a referendum to sell alcohol in the store. There's people stood up in the bag nation and say, excuse me if I'm nervous a little bit. The people said alcohol is bad, it does this, it does that. Today, what are we talking about? We're talking about another legal product that it started off with the chief and council giving education here and there, but it stopped all of a sudden. For some reason, I agree with you, Jackie, maybe it's a good idea to bring it back up so the balls will get rolling again. All we're asking for is let's have a referendum, let's have a meeting, let's do this, let's find out where we're going with it. Because I believe, personally, I was listening to the phone again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I opened at the same time as Rob. Imagine, that was almost, what, 5, 6 years ago? Rob opened in the same time as me.
Everybody in the room here knows that 70% of the population is ordering it online. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And I believe the biggest fear that everybody here in the room has is that I don't want my kids and my grandchildren smoking shit that comes from a field and you put something on it so it'll be better. I'd like for it to be tested and follow the proper procedures. Then this way here, well, it's legal, it's checked out.
So say it's okay for my grandkids to smoke it as long as it's tested and everything? Is that what it's saying?
They could be 18.
18.
It's 18.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask questions just so, you know, people understand. It's not to hit your pocket or
Now,
anything.
if it's a medicine, people take Tylenol, the
Yeah,
fruit and stuff.
yeah.
This is a medicine, that's a medicine.
My children can't buy alcohol, they can't buy weed, and I think Kingsley agreed to even 21 years old. When I opened, it was 21.
Who's gonna be the watchdog? Who's gonna be
Well, that-
watching?
It's, you know, but, did what I say, it's easy for us to sit around here and say, okay, who's gonna do this, who's gonna do that? I don't think we're landed here yet. Let's educate the people, make a decision. Once that is made, then we get into the trade participation.
That's my big worry is who is gonna be watching, because you got people.
Watches for alcohol.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Well, this problem has come up in every different community, right? It's a common issue. And the solution that has been discussed and that has been implemented in, I would say, at least 6 or 7 communities is that an association is created. Like, for example, right now, there's a Micmac Rights Association that started out of the cannabis dispensaries, basically pushing back against raids and you know, dealing with precisely these same questions. And so they built an organization of all of the store owners and said, okay, what are the community health and safety standards, right? What's the age? What are we doing to ensure the health and safety? And one of the crucial things is holding regular meetings in the community to actually resolve the matters. Right, and saying, okay, and this was done it was done in Tyndonega, it was done in Alderville, it was done in the North Shore, and it's being done amongst the Mi'kmaq right now, which is to say, the traditional way of self-regulation is that everybody has a voice, right? Everybody is equal there. Sometimes they say the eyebrows are at the same height, and so and then the other thing is to say, well, we're going to have this set meeting at this set time, right? Like the weekend after the summer solstice or 2 weekends before the winter solstice. You know, we're going to get together and spend the whole day, and all the community members are welcome, all the people that are consuming the product, all the people that are distributing it, all that are growing it, and we'll work out whatever issues that people have. So this happened in Alderville, and there was concerns that people had over the traffic, increased traffic in the community and the roads, so that the people organized and were able to get, you know, change the speed limit sign and put up the, you know, all kinds of blinking signs and you know, address that, you know, that concern. And at the same time, a lot of the people who were not in the cannabis industry and who had reservations about it saw the sales at their gas station or their restaurants double or triple from the commerce that was coming in from the cannabis. So essentially, the traditional form of regulation is to say, we're going to decide this amongst the people, whether that's in one big setting or whether that's in breaking off into clans or into families or into whatever kind of governance system is appropriate to you.
You know, and this has always been my message to people when I end up speaking to them. In the future, you've got to decide what it's going to be, your future yourselves, not government, never government. You together decide what direction you're going to go and how you're going to develop. It's up to you, and that's the way it should be.
And then you have to have the support of your community, your people.
Yeah.
You have to have that support.
Yeah, and that means you've got a lot of work to do.
Yes, you gotta give that information. Like, I'm asking questions, but I'm not going against your your ideas. I'm just throwing questions that it's gonna be thrown at you anyways. Yeah. And,
But what's scary, Jackie, is that Kitigan Zibi is supporting, maybe not supporting, but letting black market operate. That means any age. When you have a dispensary, you got cameras, you're carding people.
you do,
We
you do.
protect the community, you know?
Well, every store
I
should,
know.
every store will.
But how many dispensaries are they gonna have?
I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody thinks they can open a little shack. It costs money to open a dispensary. Anthony spent a lot of money to open a dispensary, which eliminates all the little drug dealers say we opened. The little people that are thinking they're gonna sell crack and weed and coke, they will quickly be eliminated because the people that really wanna get into it, into this industry, we have to put everything we have in our bank to open it. So it's gonna eliminate the corner drug traffickers.
That's what you think.
That's a part
They're
of,
pretty smart people, those,
and there has to be, there has to,
they have,
yes,
they're already
absolutely.
thinking ahead what they're gonna do. It's gonna be, yeah, I don't, it sounds like a lot of shops are gonna open, but
I don't think so.
I think so.
Here's the thing, right? And
It
so
costs too much money to open.
in Ottawa,
Excuse me, Anthony. They're open now.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I
you
mean?
have, sorry, but
You know who's selling?
you have a bunch of people that are selling
Exactly, right now.
like on the black market.
That,
You don't know what you're buying, there could be fentanyl there,
I
and all of
absolutely
a
agree
sudden,
with you.
boom, someone's dead.
But right now, at this minute, you can go someplace on the rest and buy it.
It's always gonna be like that. We're going with maybe
But
30
that's
ounces
gotta
that happen,
stop.
even if there's.
But it's the police that's gotta stop that. The
Yes.
police has to stop, letting the black market exist and let the professionals open their businesses.
I'm gonna ask a question because I don't know anything about this stuff. When you say medicinal, is that all just what people would sell is just for medicine? No, like where do people buy pot?
In every product that you use, you could abuse. It's up to you if you're gonna abuse. The doctor gives you a hydromorph for a sore neck.
That's not my
It's up
question.
if you abuse it or not.
That's
It's
not-
all medicinal.
That's not my question. Where do these people buy their pot? To
Well,
get high and stuff like that? You know what I
The
mean?
dispensaries, they buy it at the dispensary fee.
Right, and that's to get high, correct?
Yeah. There's recreational and there's
there's medicinal.
broken down into two different departments. You can mix them both together also.
Yeah, that's my question,
Like-
because I didn't really understand, like, what,
So just for a little more context, in the 1800, well, for a very long time, cannabis was a key plant medicine. And it was, if you look in the old pictures or the, like Sears department thing or whatever, they'll be selling indica cannabis, a lot of tinctures. And it was like a really big part of medicine. And then after the oil industry took off, they found out how to make drugs using synthetic, but basically pharmacy chemicals, right? And they were the main people producing cannabis in the 1920s were actually indigenous people in Mexico, and the FBI and the government sort of whipped up this kind of crime kind of
$30.
scandal thing. They were the prohibition had ended, and they were looking for something else to keep themselves going. So they made this big myth about white women falling in with Mexicans and black people and jazz music, and that marijuana was to blame and was the cause of all of it. And the FBI whipped up this hysteria. Cannabis was criminalized, and the pharmaceutical industry took over from the plant-based herbal medicine industry, and that's what's brought us to our current situation. So this is about recovering the traditional medicinal applications of cannabis, going back to the recipes to make the tinctures.
Let me add one comment to that. In Canada, they determined it was. Yeah, in Canada, they made it in. They introduced it in Parliament in the criminal code. Finally, I think it was in 1937, something like that. Anyway, and the reasons that they the parliamentarians were talking about it. They said, we've got to make a law against this because we're afraid that the black man will be taking all of our women. No, that's the truth. That's what they were talking about in Parliament.
Can I say something? I would also like to say, like, this is a legal product, and we're not, like, I don't understand how the community is where we are at now, when it's illegal.
Yeah.
If you don't drink, you don't go to the alcohol store. If you don't want weed, you don't go to the weed store. It's if you don't, like, it just makes
legal.
sense to me.
But it's illegal when the ones that are selling now are not illegal. That's illegal.
Well, that's the community.
And that's
supporting
you,
that.
people that smoke, buy that stuff, that's your job to report them and close them.
Yes, you think we're happy?
But you think you're gonna go against them? I don't think you will. That's how I feel.
I've been oppressed for the last 5 years, looking at my dispensary closed, and everybody else on the reserve
Yeah.
is selling whatever they want
Yeah.
without police intervention.
Yeah.
I'm against that.
Yeah, me too.
And I agree that honestly, the little time I was open, my clientele was 40 and up. And I agree that the age should be 21. We had agreed upon that at that time. The province says 19, we are allowed to say 21. But the kids, 16, 17, 18, that are smoking now, they just have to order it online. Like, stopping us from opening is not stopping the community from accessing it.
Go online, buy it online.
Yeah.
I agree.
2 days you get it.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I throw questions because I'm trying to make you guys think.
I
Yeah.
know.
Oh, we all
There's
know.
the answer.
Basically, it's money making.
Hey,
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a
it's,
business.
it's,
But what you do with the money?
it's good. There's going to be a lot of questions, because you're just at the beginning of something, and you don't know in the end how it's going to turn out. But if you keep developing, you're going to see a lot of your people are going to have jobs. They're going to have things they could never have had in the past, and that's what's happening where the cannabis industry is operating. Like in NIDA, I think they've got something like, they must have about 30 shops.
Who's selling from their house, people are still gonna be able to find it using a computer.
That's a fact.
100% guarantee you that.
I want you guys to hear some people. Want to say something?
Hold on, time out.
I just want to say something good about cannabis. Like, I was an alcoholic. My name's Wayne. I'm an alcoholic, an addict, drug addict, and used to be a cigarette addict. But ever since it became legal and stuff, I slowly became back to weed. Then I got out the booze and the hard drugs 3 years ago because of cannabis. Just
Whoa.
smoking weed. Just that, and then about a year ago, I got out cigarettes because it was CBD. That the teachers give me help.
And we're all proud of you.
All just because of that. Nothing.
Hey, it's awesome.
Nothing from government shit, or any hospitals. Just cannabis. And I was addicted for 20 years. I was ready to rob people and shit for drugs. I was ready to do all that bad shit. I was selling drugs to get drugs. But ever since I started smoking marijuana again, I don't think about any of that shit. And I would love everybody to feel my medicine. I would love to provide, because I know which ones work and which ones don't, which ones will get you, if you've got certain problems. I figured that out by using it and experiencing it.
Can I ask you a question? What does marijuana do for you?
Kind of like calms my nerves because I have bad anxiety. That's why I started drinking.
So does it give
It
you
just
like a
keeps me
high?
cool. Well, if I want to get high, I'll smoke something that will get me high.
You
I
have a
want to get
choice.
high.
But when you're
But
a
I wanna
regular
function.
smoker, you
I
don't
wanna
really get
function.
high.
I would love to function during the whole day, so I smoke a certain amount of smoke with medicines I got, because I know them all. By the end of the night, I'll smoke this one that I want to get high because my day's done and I'll go to bed. I'll sleep through it the whole night peacefully.
Would that, just asking questions, would that influence, like the way you feel with that? Could you go on electric power and work on the lines? Could you work on a machine? Could you work, is it?
Sure. I'm sure of it, I'm sure of it.
I don't
Cause
know.
like, I don't know, man, it's, you guys are making it seem like.
The thing is, you can smoke it, you can smoke it and there's gummies and you have different milligrams.
I could tell you the answer to that question. I was a machinist. I was working in California, and I had a lot of Mexicans that worked for me. They were high most of the time. They were,
I work with people that got.
and they never made a mistake. They were just,
Driving around there,
well,
not
they,
supposed to be driving, and they got jobs that are on methadone that are not supposed to be working. Come on, that's legal too, you guys are clapping that shit.
What I think
You know what I mean? But
part of the solution
marijuana,
is people like him to be almost the head people of the
committee,
shops. Guys
would
like
love
him
to
that
help.
know what they're talking
to
about.
go walk
Yeah.
around and.
I don't know what he's talking about because I didn't do drugs,
Exactly.
but he knows.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are addicted that could be pharmacists.
Yeah.
They know just as much as a pharmacist.
I feel good like that. I wanna help people. Like, there's so much people I could help, but I don't have enough money to give away, cause for my percentage, if I had a shop, if I wanted to give back to my community, I would give back to like a rehab program my own way. Show them how I did. Give them my free drugs instead of me having to pay for it, cause sometimes I would help my brother or something. For a good while, he gets older, it would cost me money to give him my drugs. I call them drugs, right? Because I don't know, that's what he wants to say. And then, so I would give him mine. And then, I wouldn't be able to keep up with it though, and then he would fall off because I can't keep providing. I give him the basis on the structure, how to get there, but
If you,
it would die out because I can't provide.
okay, I wanna ask a question, because I wanna understand it. So when you go to a meeting, okay, is it NA? Yeah, whatever. Do the people smoke there? Because I see a lot of smokers when you go to these things. Do they smoke, marijuana while they're having a meeting?
Some of them, well, not during the meeting,
Why
but
not?
some of them, I don't know, because it's illegal.
Well, you're not allowed to
Smoking.
So you can't smoke cigarettes or
Could be
you
another
can't smoke weed. So you can't
But
smoke
they
cigarettes,
can
you
go
can't smoke weed.
outside.
yeah, usually everybody goes outside,
And
yes.
they come back in. And that's okay then?
Just a respect
So
thing.
it's not a drug then?
Correct, no, it's not.
So marijuana is not a drug?
Not anymore.
No,
Right now.
it's illegal.
It was never a drug, it was always a medicine, but the government made it become a drug. Yes.
But I think what'll help you understand is very simple. If you take a pill that has 5 milligrams of dope, let's use the word dope. Take that same pill and take 50 milligrams. That's the difference there. At 5, you're able to operate and everything. At 50, it's like he says, his day is done. I want to get high. I get high.
I'd like to share something too. I was 38 years old and I was attacked. I had broken ribs, broken nose. I was broken up. And it's at 38 years old that I started smoking weed. My daughter and her boyfriend were in my house and they're like, come on, daughter, just try it and it'll relax you. And I was like so scared to smoke. But after bugging me and I was in so much pain, I took 2 puffs, a little 2 puffs, and my body relaxed so much that another rib, well, it must have been already fractured, but my body, because I was like this, you know, my body relaxed so much that another rib cracked. That's how much my body was tense. And I went to the hospital, came back home. They gave me oxycodone, not
Oh.
oxys, but they got oxycodone,
Yeah.
which I'm even more scared of. So I didn't take those pills, but with a little 2 puffs a day, every day, I was able to heal everything on my body. And not once did I take those damn pills. And look at our Oxycontin era.
Yeah.
We could have saved those people if we would have had these products. We could have saved so many people that are not here today. I'll give you an example. I used to pick up the addicts, so walking on the road, going to get their fixes. And I picked them up and I put some crazy music on and I take them to Cedar Lake, way in the bush, so they couldn't jump out of my truck. And we take a ride and all they'd be thinking about is their next fixed.
Yeah.
But I had gummies and they're used to heroin or oxys, so like, I don't know, 100 milligram gummy. And he's tricked it. That boy, I gave him a gummy And I was supposed, after we got out of the bush, I was supposed to drop him off at the dealers in town. And it broke my heart to know he's going to get heroin, you know. So he's eating that gummy, and then I go right to town. He says, holy shit, he said, I forgot that I had to score. It went away in his head, like, he still wanted to get dropped off. But he realized, holy shit, this whatever I took, that gummy, stopped that urge in his head to go get that bad drug, you know?
Yeah.
It is a medicine. It is a medicine.
Yeah, you know, whole states are moving in that direction now. Ohio is one of them. They're promoting the use of marijuana instead of the oxycodone or all those addictive pills.
For me, I'm a firm believer, I guess I've been lucky. But any medication, any kind of medication, any kind of alcohol, any kind of dope, any kind of prescribed pills, if you take it the way you're supposed to take it, it's only supposed to help you. But the problem becomes is when you start to abuse it.
You get addicted.
There you become addicted. But there's other things that are causing that. And that's where we gotta get the education. And I find educating the community about legal marijuana dispensaries, there's an avenue that we could go down that it could be beneficial for the whole community. And now we're walking around with our heads in the sand and we don't know what.
Pretty soon they're gonna open up the town.
And
And then where we're gonna go, we're gonna run, remember for the alcohol guys, we used to run the Lolas? Well, now we're gonna be running to the shopping center now.
And we're happy to have you guys, Jackie, Margaret. It's nice to see you guys here and ask questions because you guys are scared, you know. But you guys went through the alcohol era. Like, you guys know that alcohol is bad, and you guys are starting to know that cannabis is medicinal. Like,
We go through it with our family for years. We've
I
gone through
don't
it.
like the part where you use alcohol to legalize the cannabis. Let's not talk about alcohol. Let's talk about what you guys want to do. You want to sell that? That's okay. Us? I know it's a medicine. I know some seniors that take it and it works for them. I know all that. I just want to throw questions at you guys like, you're gonna get those questions anyways.
absolutely.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
Because I know that some seniors, it works for them, whatever it is, their arthritis or their,
Isn't that good enough?
but don't throw alcohol back at me, because I'm sticking to marijuana right now. That's what our meeting's about. Not to, kind of defend the marijuana with alcohol.
That's not what
Alcohol's the same
that's not what I meant. I meant that
I
it
know.
was a really bad era in our community with
Yeah.
alcohol, and we don't see it. The young people are not really into it anymore. But like when I was young, I partied hard, and that era's kind of gone. We've seen what alcohol does, and cannabis is not. We cannot compare it, you know.
I think what you're trying to say, Don, is that Jackie's generation was the alcohol.
Yes,
Our
that's what I was
generation is marijuana,
Yeah.
and then maybe our grandkids will get something else.
You're our generation, what you're talking about.
That is not true, because there were drugs, there was stuff back then.
I imagine.
We're talking 1969, that's, you know, we're talking.
But you know,
Yes, LSD, all kinds of stuff. So it's not, you know what I mean? And this is the reason why we have all these questions, because we lived through it.
yeah, but the difference was back in our days.
Yeah.
Back in our days, mescaline, acid, mushrooms, today, what is it? What are the kids? The majority of the kids, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be talking too much. Is that it's prescribed pills. That's the
Yep.
biggest,
That's a
biggest problem we have is prescribed pills.
That's a fact.
That's what I feel. I could be wrong. But to compare that, Jackie, and everybody in the room, to compare that to this, totally different ball.
Exactly.
Totally different.
So,
This is
That's
the
legal.
circle, like, we're all respectful to each other's, I didn't wanna attack, I'm not attacking you, I'm just
No,
thinking like generation after generation, it's a new thing, you know?
go ahead.
I just want to say I'm Jessica Roy. And I
grew up knowing that it was medicine. You know, when I talked with the medicine men, and I asked him, do you announce that when you're saying the prayer? And he said, no, because it's from the earth. I can't say it's bad or good. It's from the earth. It's what Mother Earth gave us. He says, everything is medicinal. Everything can be good or bad for you. So I never really smoked. I was in a very bad car accident, and we drove 5 times. I was on my deathbed, and they wanted to give me pills. And I refused pills, you know, and I smoked a little weed, and I healed. It took me a year to heal. But after that, you know, I never smoked. Occasionally, you know, here and there throughout the years, I'm 70 years old, you know,
Yeah.
but it's been a couple decades at least.
Yeah. Well, you know, in my case too, I'm a weed smoker. I'm 80 years old, and I can still beat all these young fellas a game of golf here.
You do belong in this industry. I know what you've done for your life, and you deserve to be part of this industry. Teaching the community and even being part of a security that's checking up on the dispensaries. Like, I agree to all that, but I want a guy like you in the front.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about. They know
Yep.
where it came from.
Dedicate my life to marijuana.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah, so you might say you have been studying it for like 10 years nonstop every day. That's all I read about all the time.
It's a good thing they have regular medicine though, I'll have to say, because I had open heart. I could not survive without the medicines out there.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, anything you abuse,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like in smoking marijuana, you get that through your lungs, you get, you know, stuff like that. That's what I worry about the young generation.
But there's products that you don't have to smoke.
Yeah, but the kids don't want those.
Yeah.
The kids wanna,
I don't want my son smoking weed, and if he hangs around with someone that's smoking weed, he's not allowed hanging out with them. My son's 15, and I'll kick his ass if I catch him.
then what is the reason for that?
Because his brain is not developed
Okay, there you
until he's 21 years old. And I agree that on the community, most won't agree, but me at my shop, it's gonna be 21 and up. And that when I opened, it was 21 and up. And no kids were coming. It was 40 and over.
I think it was like more like 25 when their brain stops.
But you're an adult at 21.
So
I don't
So-
know.
Why does the government sell beer at 18? And I'm sure, like, getting back to what you guys are saying, I'm sure the government did studies in that, like they're saying the brain development and everything else. Why are they selling alcohol at 18 years old?
Why are you selling alcohol at 18?
Because we had a referendum and I'm allowed to do it.
Because it's money making.
It's a
Well,
business.
I'll tell you the money that you make, the money that I make in the KZ store compared to the groceries I'm selling is a drop in the bucket. It's a service that I'm giving to the people. It's like when you go to the restaurant and you order yourself a filet mignon and there's a bottle of wine in there. You want it or you don't. That's the same thing I'm doing at the store.
Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about marijuana.
Not taking an example, you know what I mean?
Comparing alcohol and,
So, I just wanna
But
go,
alcohol is there though.
yeah,
And
it's
it
there.
should be there too, in its own way.
Let's stop using that as an excuse though.
Cigarettes.
You're gonna get further if you just talk about marijuana and the benefits of it. You'll get further.
where's the bathroom?
I think it's education. That's what
Okay.
I find, I feel.
Like those people like him that educate people.
Yeah, but why?
Right there. Okay.
Why all of a sudden I have my ideas. If I say them, I'm gonna insult some people and some people are gonna agree.
Now you're losing.
No, that's it. It's a little bit sticky.
right, yeah.
I believe it's
Handicap stuff. Oh, use this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna share this with you guys, okay? I'm in Ottawa. There's 15 stores, okay? 15 OCS government stores. Okay, guess what's gonna happen?
They're gonna start dropping off. They're government stores. They can't compete. They cannot compete with the quality. They can't compete with the price. They can't compete in any angle at all. Okay, we're there to help people to push the medicinal side to it. Okay, so people, I love it when older people come into our store and they sit there and they're like, "Oh my God, this works for me." It's phenomenal. It's amazing. I love it, and it's great that we're actually helping people. So here we need unity, and then we need to get some regulations going, and I will show the right way to do things, and people could follow suit, and I will help them. They don't. Yeah, they don't have to do it the way that I do. It's just the right way to do it. We don't take shortcuts. We have the lab. Every single product there is tested at our lab. The packaging is done right. We do the packaging and everything like this so that we could compete alongside of the white fruits. The white people. That's why we do it. They set. They're just following suit so that we can compete in their marketplace. Recently, something happened on a reserve. I forget the name of the reserve, but it was actually just yesterday. They made it so they passed a referendum, and they said, "Okay, we're going to pass a referendum, but you guys could only purchase from 3 indigenous manufacturers," and Medicine Wheel was one of them. So now we got bans and councils telling them that they can in their stores, but they have to purchase our product. What does that mean for us? It means that we got to tighten up and we got to get busy because we're taking on a lot of growth.
We've been waiting since 2018. I think the community is starting to look a little off. It's unprofessional of us to not, and we could provide probably 100 jobs tomorrow. You know, we're just starting to look dumb here. In Kitigan Zibi. We're the first community here in Ottawa. Let's lead the way. Let's be professional. Let's invest and let's contribute to the community where it's needed.
So here,
Nobody else is doing anything for us.
I agree 100% what you're saying, Donna, but my personal feeling, I feel we're still a mile away from our objection because we're lacking education.
I know, but the people had 5 years. This product is legal there. Like, come on.
No, I agree with
crazy.
that, but I don't think it's a good idea for tomorrow morning, 20 people decide to open up. It's not gonna solve
There has to be
anything.
guidelines.
Yeah, that's right. You need, like Jackie said, you need the support of the people, you need the support of council.
We don't need the support of council.
we need the community.
The community.
The community, yeah, okay, so the community is
Yeah.
first awesome. But with that said, is that, let's get the education, it started, why did it stop?
Why did it
Anybody
stop?
else
The
would like-
elders stopped it, I think, at one point.
Well, but part of the reason why this has happened a lot in terms of band council saying, okay, we're going to do something about cannabis. They recognize that there's an interest in cannabis. I'm aware of something like 20, 25 different referendums that have happened in communities over cannabis. And in all of them, the people said, yes, we want cannabis and we want it done by individual entrepreneurs. Like it's a fairly, like cannabis, I actually think that indigenous people smoke more cannabis than Jamaicans do, right? Like in terms of the ethnic demographics that smoke cannabis, native, from what I've seen, it's very, very high. And the referendums seem to back that up as well. So then it comes to the question of, well, what are chief and council going to do? Yes, they are elected by the people, but they are not responsible to the people. They're responsible to the minister. They work for the minister. They're servants of the crown. At the end of the day, the check is coming from the government. They have to do the rules that the government says. And what the government says is the elected band council has no authority or jurisdiction over cannabis. Why? Because they're limited to what the Indian Act says they can do. As Chief Riley says, these are John A. Macdonald clubs. John A. Macdonald set up the Indian Act. He gave a role for chief and council. They can do very, very limited things, and cannabis is not one of those things. They can't overrule a parliamentary law that put in the Cannabis Act. Why? Because they are created by parliamentary law that put in the Indian Act. Now, there's a lot of like kind of fudging and trying to say this term First Nation is used a lot. First Nation has no legal meaning as a term. So it's really useful because when we all hear it, we think, the First Nation, they're recognizing the nation as a whole in this larger national entity. But in fact, they're very careful to make sure it has no legal meaning. And if it does, it's referred to as an Indian band in the meaning of the Indian Act. So the problem that band councils have when they respond to the public will to do something about cannabis is they soon realize that they can only harmonize with federal and provincial legislation. So that means that they can add an extra little tax, but all the cannabis has to be Health Canada licensed producers, huge overhead, requiring millions of dollars to get into manufacturing it. And then there's basically nothing for the people if they do that. There's a few places that have followed the provincial licensing system. I think Nipissing is one of them. There's some attempts to do it elsewhere, but they can't diverge from what the exact rules of what Canada says at all, or they tried to do that in Six Nations. They tried to make some weird cannabis commission, and the government said, no, you're not allowed to do that. You can't get a bank account, and you're all liable to go to jail for up to 14 years because you're acting outside of the Cannabis Act. And what's happened in Six Nations? Well, the exact same thing that's happened everywhere else. There's an association made of cannabis business owners that set up standards to be followed. They're expressing a right, and they're doing their thing. And there's others that don't want to be part of an association and are still doing their thing. But the band council model for regulating cannabis has been a failure everywhere it's been tried. So the smarter band councils look at it and then say, nah, we're going to just wash our hands of it because we don't want to piss off the government and lose our program funding. And they can't do anything independently because they don't have the authority or jurisdiction to do it. There's a question over there.
To repeat what I was saying at the consultation meeting, just to echo what he was saying, not only can you steer away from the standards that Health Canada put in, it's nice because they gave you basically a playbook. You don't have to guess anything, you know exactly what to do. It's very, very expensive, and it's very hard to follow suit because all my professors that train you in school are real life consultants that go and work with the biggest names in Canada. What they do is they go in and fix the problems because the employees have a hard time to follow the standards. When you don't follow the standards, fines, more money.
Yeah, other dispensaries are regulated by the government. The government controls every single thing. They have to purchase so the government does what Medicine Wheel does. We purchase product. For example, our flower in my store comes from a reserve across Canada. We purchase it from a reserve, test it at the lab, send back what doesn't pass, and what passes put out to the stores. Out of 30 pounds, 22 pass. So, because everybody's they're not growing, every pound isn't up to our standards because we're testing at high levels. We have the best product on the market right now. So with that being said, Ontario, they buy stuff from growers, buy their edibles, buy everything, and then they sell it to all these stores. They tell these stores how much they could sell it for and how much they pay for it and how they could sell it, and they tell the employees how to act and what they could say and what they can't say. It's all the government controls every single thing to do with a dispensary, okay? Now, with all that being said, these little stores, if we open up here, once we do have the community support, and once everybody is in agreement, and we have regulations, and we have guidelines that we follow, if people think that they're going to open up little stores along the side of the highway and they're going to flourish, I promise you, I will do everything in my power to put them out of business. Just like I'm trying to do everything in my power to put this black market out of business here, all the way up to, I deliver to KZ, 120-kilometer radius. If anybody needs anything, we'll deliver right here. And I'll beat their prices.
Can I ask you a question? What is the goal here today? To educate educate people? What are you here for?
My goal is just to educate. That's it. My goal is just to educate and let people know, hey, this is what's happening in Ottawa. This is what we're doing there, and it should be going on here. And I'd like to see us come together and figure out a solution as a community. We don't need the chief and council. We need the community. We need all of us support, like everybody, not just us. We need other people too.
And I'd also like to add that since 2018, the Indigenous people are way ahead of the Canadian government on their products.
It's a fact.
The Indigenous people, maybe not from Kizzy, but a lot of other communities across Canada are squishing provincial dispensaries.
I do. I disagree. We do need a chief and council. The people put them in there.
Outside of them together, we need them as a community members.
I'm not finished talking.
But
Okay? They got voted in by majority of the community to run as chief and council. What the community has to understand is the band council is our employees. The community people are in charge.
True.
We tell them what to do.
They don't listen.
They don't
They work for the government.
Yes.
They don't work for us.
Because we go do it individually all the time. Nobody, we don't get together like that.
Unity, we're big in numbers. Unity. That's what it's about. We're big in numbers, and that's what I'd like to see.
Sometimes I talk by myself and I try to get people's support.
If we did-
Everybody shuts up.
If we did come together, we can make them do what we want them to do. That's what she's saying.
That's our boss.
That's
why
what-
we elected them.
That's what she's saying. If we came together, we can make them do what we want them to do.
What Chief and Council's mandate in the Indian Act is to manage band funding, period.
We have to have somebody to lead our community.
We could vote for somebody, another committee.
Okay, you guys, could you let her go, please? Excuse me.
Coming up?
You know what, I listened to all this here. What I think is that this is our first meeting we have here on this. I think we have to have more meetings
Yeah.
concerning this before we get into our decision making.
That's a fact.
We've been having meetings for 3 years, 4 years.
We had 2 years meeting.
Yeah.
I think people have to get educated on
The people themselves, whatever.
This is not the first meeting, like the fourth or the fifth.
So what do you want to do?
You're gonna put out a date about this meeting. All the
And we
people,
have
so
to get the chief and the council involved. And there's a way we can do that to get them to come here because everybody is concerned about the community, you know? Talk about the liquor, the alcohol that was first sold in our reserve.
Did you see the letter that I sent to the chief and the council and hand delivered to all of them? They were invited to this meeting. I wrote them a nice email and I delivered it to all of them. I'm in agreement with you. More meetings do need to happen because we need to come together as a community and fast forward things and make things happen. Because if we just sit on our asses and not do anything, nothing's gonna happen.
It's a referendum.
But anyways, I was saying, back in the days of alcohol there, have you ever stopped and think what liquor, beer, and all that stuff does to people?
So it's fucked up my family for years, generations. It's messed up my
A
family.
lot of families.
Yeah.
A lot of people went to residential school because of that. That's what I see it. I see many things like that. You know, they became addicted to alcohol. Well, now we have a meeting to talk about this. I know a little bit about that. I never ever tried it, but I heard about it. But I know one person who was very sick and they turned to that. Now, that person there is feeling much better. She's more relaxed and all this stuff. And she says that was a good thing, she says, you know, and she used to be a person that drank a lot. She says, I wish I had this more before. Yeah.
And you could quit it without.
But anyway, we have to have more discussions of this. And we're not gonna just say, okay, you can do this, you can start that. We have to decide as a community, you know, and to work with this in a good way, because what I understand is that a child cannot take that, you have to be 18 or over. Well, that makes the most sense I ever heard, you know? And that's the way I feel about that, because I hear about this thing all the time. And let's not put down anybody. Let's not put down the chief and the council or anybody for that matter. We're all related to those people, and it's not because of that, but because they were elected and they're the chief and council. They're still help with the community. You know, they're here for that. I know that what you're just saying about the government made that Indian Act. You know, I always say when I go to meetings, I say, we should get rid of the Indian Act. Nobody agrees with me. Why? Indian Act controls us. The government tells us what to do. What you were talking about, you know, I heard that many times before, and it's true. And we have to learn to do things on our own.
You know,
But before we start this thing going on there, I'd like to see that we have more meetings on this. Even if there's only 5 people or in that come, let's have discussions.
yeah. You know, at the end of the day, you're going to have a video of this that you can spread around to the whole community, so that other people can experience some of the knowledge that's come out today, some of the feelings that have come out from people. And that's so important, and it's really nice to see a debate going on between individuals, because you're moving in the right direction, and you got to start somewhere though.
The thing is, you're saying work as a community and everything. What bugs me today, not seeing, is our chief and council not here today. At least one of them representing, to see and learn.
I bet you it's a golf tournament.
That's what I.
I bet you're there though.
But
One of them's a golfer.
I talked to the chief 2 weeks ago. I went in his office and I said, why did everything stop? And he says, Donna, I'll be honest with you. The only thing that's going to happen in Kitigan Zibi is the chief and council is going to open a dispensary in the community and they're going to run it.
Yep.
That's what he told me.
That's the whole struggle.
And I walked away and I was like, oh my.
And then what? Siphon the profits out to the people, because that's the people's money. That's not the chief's money. That's not the band's money. And I have nothing against the council or the chief. The thing about it is I like them better as community members, and not together as a whole. I don't have respect for them together as a whole, but I have respect for each one of them individually.
Yeah. And I worked closely with them, and that was, nobody exactly told me, but I connected the dots, and it was a struggle between, we want one place that is community owned. I've heard many communities members say this as well, and other people want it to be their own business members. That's
Right.
It's the whole struggle.
But we have a sovereign right to
And the
do it.
people we need to work for this said dispensary for the community don't want to work for the band.
The thing is, a lot of the people did not understand. A lot of them were elders that don't understand how this product works. They think it's just smoking. It's not only smoking. You got gummies, you got oils, incense. You got all kinds of things, bad bombs and everything. Like we said, we need to be educating everybody more through community flyers or just to show what this stuff does.
And there's a whole spectrum. Like what Eric's done is what they call using it as an exit drug. I've done this as well. Maybe a surprise to people. I've done it for actually 2 very powerful substances that most people don't ever get off of. To this day, I'm fine. I consider my life going quite well. And I've done it because of cannabis.
That's what we need.
And I've been using it. People talk about the memory stuff. People talk about the memory stuff I've been using every day, all day for the past 11 years. My memory's probably stronger than ever. There's another example in the green shirt right there.
I can tell you how medicinal this stuff really is. I've been type 1 and type 2 diabetic since I was a baby, on insulin 4 or 5 times a day. My A1C stats are amazing because I'm taking the oil.
So, when they had meetings in the past, I haven't seen a lot of you there at all.
I was running the meetings, I was also there.
I looked at those meetings.
I was at every single meeting.
Sometimes you're gonna think I'm against you, but I'm not. I'm throwing questions that you're gonna have to answer. I have somebody else asking those questions.
And I've tried to answer those questions, Auntie, and sometimes you're just gonna get, no, I don't think so. And what do you do about that?
Just, that's okay.
I don't think it's possible when someone's telling you is lived and standing here is proof and experience, so.
We even had a show of hands
Yeah.
meeting. The whole hall went yes, and that didn't even fly. Sean Jerome did a referendum. That wasn't accepted. Like, we've done our homework, we've done our work, and we're still sitting at a round table.
Because you didn't work together.
Right,
That's what I
yes,
find.
yes.
Keep on stopping us.
You didn't come together.
The last barrier.
We could work
was-
together without them.
And then the last barrier was one shop versus many shops. Two sides both disagreed, and that was the problem.
And that was
The
the
people
end.
we needed who wanted to be business owners, we need them in the one shop. We need them. They don't want to work for one shop. They told the band this, they told the council, totally transparent. Council said, okay, no shop, no then.
And 2-3 families can own one dispensary.
Yeah.
We don't have to have all to me. Like 2-3 families can get together and have a dispensary. It doesn't have to be individuals.
The numbers are good. I've went to Golden Lake, I've talked to the big dogs there. I've talked to the actual owners face to face.
How many dispensaries do they have in Golden Lake? Oh my
Too many to count.
It's so beautiful.
I don't want to see that here. I want it controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah, one building, I'm not kidding, Jackie, it's twice the size of our community hall.
Golden Lake, like 15 years ago, was like a ghost town.
Yeah.
And now there's gas stations here, stores there, like
And
people are
happiness.
like, yeah,
You see
it's
the,
like,
I used to go there and see drunks.
and all the
over place.
dispensaries donate 15% of their sales
Yeah.
to the elders.
And I'm okay with
yeah.
it. It's for sure
It's
that we're
booming,
all
it's a
gonna
booming
donate.
town.
The reality of the situation is if cannabis was legal here, and everything was going good, we could be self-reliant and we wouldn't need funding from the Canadian government. That's the facts of the situation. And here's another thing that I was just talking about it. The OCS store is going out of business. I just got a phone call. I got a dispensary right directly across the street from me. Well, guess what? They're supposed to renew their lease next month. Guess what? It's not happening. And they're not paying rent. So guess what that means? There's one out of business.
But you know.
Now we got
what,
some more to knock off the list.
Where you're saying, if this, that, there's a dispensary open on Algonquin Territory. It's operating and it's functioning. So,
As if it's a reservation.
and it's not on the reservation, so what are we all worried
And-
about?
You didn't need the different councils approval, you went ahead and did it yourself.
Right, I went ahead and did it myself, and I contacted authorities above me.
They tried to do that here, and
I tried to do it here. I advised council that what I was going to do. And I opened up, I advised
I
everybody.
think there were 3 to
I
do
put
this.
it on Facebook.
Yeah.
We were 3. And like, there's more unity in, I'm a businesswoman. There's more unity than everybody could imagine throughout the businesses. Like we help each other, you know. Me and I often go to see Butch for something, or there's a lot of unity among our business owners. You'd be surprised. It might not show in the public.
That's what the problem is here, is we're not united.
no, we're not.
Well, we're a little
That's
more
our
united than
Yeah.
people think.
Pardon?
We're a little more united in the business world than the community thinks.
Well, we need to come together. Everybody needs to come together as a community, put differences aside, cut the bullshit. If everybody came together, everybody would be rich. If people just put their differences to the side, help lift each other up, and not try to stab each other in the back and talk shit about each other and smile in each other's face, but not really be their friend, guess what? We'd all be fucking rich, and everything. The whole reserve would be flourishing. Nobody would have a thing to worry about. For real, that's a fact.
I like what Chief Riley said, that let's stop thinking individual and start thinking clans and families. That I like.
You guys remember that whole little story about the monkey with the one arrow, and when he breaks it, and he says, "This is you as a single monkey." You guys must have watched Planet of the Apes, right? So what did that monkey do? He grabbed a bunch of arrows, or a bunch of his sticks. Yeah. Couldn't even break it. He said, "When monkeys are together, you're strong." So I'm saying to you, my fellow monkeys,
I'm not a monkey.
Fuck all your bullshit, stand together, grab your hands together, just like the pictures in the wampum belt. Grab your hands together,
And
stand together.
Kitigan Zibi police needs to be educated to stay off our private lands. That's like, what they did to me cost me everything. It cost me 2 years in court. It was like, oh my God, I'm still traumatized. And I've been staying home ever since. Like, I feel like so oppressed because we were 3 that opened. A woman in New Brunswick, Rob in Alderville, and me in Kitigan Zibi. Those 2 other people have opened, like, their whole community's flourishing because of that one person that started. But here, you get oppressed, you get charged with provincial laws, and we get thrown in the system. And then we gotta fight ourselves like swimming in the water. Nobody comes to the court to help us. We're standing there like idiots. And they gave me a fine, $12,000, $6,000 I had to go give a check to the Métis Association in town. What the fuck is that? And then another $6,000 to the Wanakee that has millions of dollars. And another individual got busted that had way more products than me. He got a $500 fine. Me, 12 grand. That I had to put on 2 credit cards.
See, they choose, eh?
They choose and pick, and
That's not right.
KZPD does the thing. KZPD should stay out of this, stay off our private land.
And you had no reason losing either to those cases.
Hey, I lost everything.
I know.
I stayed in my room for like, all the pandemic, I stayed in my room and smoked weed, so I wouldn't hurt anybody. For real.
So, hey,
Now you're open and you're succeeding on unceded territories. I want everybody to realize we don't need 100 meetings there. It's happening. There's a dispensary open.
We've been having
Let's
meetings
use-
for 3 years.
Let's
I'm-
use that as an example.
I'm following certain guidelines though and regulations. Okay, we have our own certification program that exceeds Health Canada's certification program, and the authorities realize that, and they know that we're not amateurs here stepping out there. They know that we're doing the right things. They did their research on us before they they did the research. They know what's up.
The
Okay.
standards are up there, you can prove it. Like,
Yes. They could take me to Supreme Court. We could do anything they wanted to do, and I could stand on this product and know that it's 100% the best that there is.
Chief Riley's working.
Yeah. Well, him. I have a team. I have a team that's ready for that too. But it's never going to come to that. The authorities are, as long as our building is up to par, and it's within code, they're going to leave us alone, and we keep doing the right thing. Now, if people decide to step foot in Ottawa and think that they're going to open up a store for $100,000 and start doing wrong and doing bad business and stuff like that, the government's probably going to step in and say, "Whoa, we're used to medicine and wheel natural healing. They do it this way."
And we
Now-
can step in too.
Yeah. Now you guys think you're going to come in and do it the wrong way? Nah, that's not going to fly.
Because there's always bad people.
Yeah. So it's important. I'm Anishinaabe, right? I'm Algonquin, so it's important for me to represent to the best that I possibly can. At 13 years old, I started my drug addiction because of alcohol. Alcohol led me to cocaine. 40 years old, my grandfather passed away. The doctors had me on clozapams, okay? And I was taking them, and people were thinking I was high, but I was clean. I've been clean a while. People were thinking I was using them, and it took me a lot to prove that I wasn't. But I stopped taking those damn pills, and now I smoke weed. And I'm not sitting here nodding out. Yeah, I'm alive. I feel better. I'm functioning. But the government and the doctors, they wanted me on those fucking clozapams. That was sure as shit. But I'm not no more. It's gone.
Those are sleeping pills.
And he has a nice store. You can visit
Well,
Oh,
then
196
I'll
Beechwood,
get busted
Vanier.
With his honor, Jackie, and then just kidding.
Maybe you guys need to educate the police station and the chief council.
I'll meet with anybody at any point they want. I'll help this situation any way possible I can, but I can't do it alone. And I want everybody to come together. I don't want people to go their own separate ways. I want everybody to come together and unite.
Say, who else had life?
I'm available for whenever you need me to tell my story about how it helped me and all that.
Miigwech.
You guys need my other one.
We all
Miigwech.
love you. He's an example, a real good example. Still right.
I want everybody to
Miigwech.
I want everybody to get where you're at too.
I guess I have to stand up.
What I done with my phone?
And Auntie, I don't want you to think that when you smoke weed and you have a drug addiction that it's going to fix it. Like, it's only some people can pull it off and a lot of people can't. And then a lot of people stay on cannabis for a long time. And that's a lot better than what they were on before. And then there are some people where the cannabis makes it worse too.
So-
And you're going to hear of those stories. But I hear far more stories like Eric and mine than I do of the ones that make it worse. So.
Oh yeah, for years I'm part of Narcotics Anonymous, and I grew up in AA. Now I grew up in rooms because my family. So, anyways, in AA and NA they're pretty hardcore. It used to always be you can't smoke weed, this, and that, nothing. 190% absence. Well, now reality of the situation is I'd rather smoke weed than fucking take the pills that the doctor wants me on. So, and weed is more beneficial to me and helping me more. And
Quit weed without, like,
I've done it many times.
yeah, like, yeah, I told you guys,
Takes 3 weeks.
I was beat up and
Yeah.
I took weed, but like I haven't smoked. Like I quit smoking on the 1st of May, and like I had no like I just quit. My lungs. I have allergies, and sometimes there's certain cannabises that I'm allergic to. So I quit the 1st of May, and it was no big deal. There's no physical addiction to cannabis.
We need young people that are needing to talk, like you,
Like Eric. Yeah.
like you, young people. And we're there to support you, we'll listen.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a big mouth. I'll let the
Yeah, but you got some.
You've done all this.
That's our generation.
But you get some that wanna talk, but they get shot down, keyboards, you know what I mean?
They laugh at us.
They laugh at them,
No.
you know, but you get some, you get some like that.
But still, like, how many meetings have we had?
It's about
2 years of
It's about
meetings.
2 years.
It's
My
like,
shop's been built for 2 years. Nothing's
Well,
been
I
happening.
was not aware it was meetings
Me
here,
neither.
and that, cause I'm not too involved, but now.
But the shop's been right beside that red bus there.
Okay,
And,
There for 2 years.
me, 5 years, I'm sitting there looking at my beautiful dispensary empty. The old ladies, I was making tea, and the older women come with their, I give the first mason jar, and I was charging $10 for a mason jar. They come and they refill the mason jar, and I had put cedar, a little bit of medicines, a little bit of bottom bag cannabis. And you should see how my customer base was like really 40 and up, because you really start just getting bobos at 50, you know? It's like,
When you need it for pain.
yeah, it's like the
me.
anxiety.
Sorry. What do you think about if they had a referendum on this in the community?
We tried.
I think that I think that we do need to have a referendum, but before we make it to a referendum, we need to put together guideline systems. Now, we do have a certification system and guidelines already in place that we're following, so that we can present it to everybody and show everybody exactly what we're doing and exactly how we're doing it.
A committee, a cannabis
Yeah.
committee.
Yes, so I'm willing to help in any way possible. I'm willing to meet with anybody. Anything we could do to help the situation, I'm for it.
I'll get people up to date on that situation too. They tried to create an association within the community. Council didn't want to meet with them, so that was shot out the window.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You have
Well-
to
Need
come
the
to the
council,
back
right?
meeting,
That they
maybe.
put out was
don't need the council
pretty
now?
ridiculous.
They don't
rules
talk
that they
about
had put out
cannabis,
there.
it's been years.
No,
Ridiculous.
but
They've been putting it off for years, but now they have people knocking on their door saying, "Hey, this is what's happened." Now I'm operating in Ottawa. What makes them think that if they take another year, that I'm not going to pull up here and open up shop? And then they're going to fight a whole nother battle because they're going to violate me, and I'm not going to step back. I'm going to sue the band.
Can't take it anymore either.
And to get
Yeah.
everyone updated on the referendum, the whole situation with that is they developed the bylaw. Nobody liked the bylaw, especially what I was saying to people who we need involved in the business really did not like the bylaw. If we had a referendum, the bylaw was gonna automatically be implemented. They didn't
They
tell
were trying to trick us that.
people figured this out, and
They
then
tried
they
to
did not
trick
like
us.
that. So
They
that's
tried-
what happened with that, and I'm telling you the absolute 100% truth.
'cause I was there.
They tried to trick us.
Yeah.
If you voted yes, why were they trying to trick us, Chief and Council? Why?
They wanted to change the rules after the referendum.
They wanted the referendum, we all vote yes, and then, but not tell us that that's the guidelines. 51% to the ban, cameras everywhere, like, what are they doing with our 80 million in the bank? Nothing. So we need our own committee to be donating to the community in the right way. We don't need to give the band money. The band has millions of dollars. We need to contribute to housing, the youth, the addictions. There's so many things we could.
How about a tiny home project for these people who are getting clean, who don't have a home to go home to and stability in their life? A tiny home project. Yeah. Right. Or for people who just struggle. You know, we have a homeless problem on this reserve. In a small community, and the band gets all sorts of money. They get the hardship money. The welfare is hardship money. I go to get it and they ask me for my bank statement, but really it's hardship money. Everybody's entitled to that money. It's not welfare. She should be given out to everybody. It's everybody's money. Each one of us are entitled to it.
The first year, we would probably be able to build a swimming pool and water slides for our kids, for the community and the elders. We've lost 5 years of money. It's like Hawks Trading Post. I've been open 18 years. Every day we're donating to something, but it's to the grassroots, not to KC Band. Why would we do that?
So my suggestion would be that we've had this meeting. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience around this table. This is a legit meeting that was called, was announced. All the people were invited to it. You have a former national chief here. You've had all kinds, there's, information booklets, all of this. Why not create your own grassroots cannabis committee here to move this forward?
Absolutely.
And then, maybe pass around, I think there's some paper or whatever, just put your names together and then create a committee that can essentially be a place to respond to any of the concerns that people have and say, we're going to go ahead and move this forward. We are following these principles around medicine and around the standards. It's our understanding that we can do this as long as we are not causing harm to anybody in the community. What are your concerns around harms to do with cannabis? And then we will take on the steps to figure out how to address that and how to resolve those, whether that's more meetings or more educational materials or what have you. And you already have the advantage that you have one store operating in Ottawa that is putting 3% of its resources back into the community. You have every right to reopen your store, and if you have the support and the knowledge that we've put together here, it means just going down, informing the police, informing the relevant authorities. This is what we're doing. We're willing to talk to you about it. We have the right to do it, and here's how we're doing it. And we've also established this committee of local people that can give feedback. And I highly recommend that all you really need to do for that governance is say, we're going to have a regular meeting once a year or twice a year. It's always going to be at the same time. And this is where we will govern ourselves and address our issues, where we will, decide the things that need to be decided. And then they can't touch you because you have the rights.
If you were to reopen and you followed our process that we use.
Well, that's where I'm going. I want to be part of this.
Then what you do is you put them on notice that, hey, these are the things you're violating or potentially violating. And if they're on notice now, and if they do anything, you could sue them, okay? Because there's so many violations that are happening in New Brunswick right now. What did they return?
This boat is now.
Well, no, but there was another.
Oh yeah. There's with the police officer apologized in that case.
So they returned these stuff, and this is what's going to happen. I mean, you're right, and see, nobody's ever pushed them by a lawsuit.
But we tried.
Yeah, and if you do that. If you do that, you'll stop the persecution.
I did all that, I put it on
I swear, I think they
Has-
did everything.
has any-
But
has-
you can't say.
Have you
put it
sued the
on
band?
Facebook. That's not an official.
I think somebody even
notice.
sued
And,
them.
and, you,
and
but
brought
you
to
also
court?
pled guilty, right? You took a deal and you said, yeah, I did this.
After 2 years,
Doesn't matter. You can't do that.
they refused, in Kitigan, in Manawaki, Indians have to plead after a year. And it's probably the only courtroom in Quebec that works like that, but
That's not constitutional.
it's not, it's unconstitutional, but, and I swear that's what they do. And at the end, I begged the chief of police to drop these charges. Why didn't they send me a cease and desist? Like, no, they threw me to the wolves. Like, and it's gonna happen again and again and again. But we gotta fight, but we don't have money to fight. Costs money to be in court for 2 years. Like, it's crazy.
But you see, the strategy is also not fighting it with lawyers, right? With the Micmac Rights Association, the people that are going in are former national chief for the Atlantic region, Hector Pictou, and Chief Riley, former national chief, who put the sections into the Constitution that the Aboriginal rights are framed under. So when the judge is sitting there on this issue, and all of a sudden it's like a ghost has arrived in his courtroom. Oh, here's the national Indigenous leader that shook Jean Chrétien's hand to get Section 25 and 35 put in, and now we're going to finally hear his interpretation of what Aboriginal rights are. Whereas the courts ran off after the constitutional process. There's supposed to be 4 meetings where they worked out the definitions of these. Of course, the government never bothered to do that. They quit after 1.
Okay.
And then they let the courts define what are Aboriginal and treaty rights. And of course, the courts, as an all-white, non-native court, defined it in such a way that was in the interests of Canada, in a total conflict of interest. But, so you have Chief Riley here with a tremendous ability to say, this is what we meant. And all the elders who educated him and who supported him and who were there in the constitutional process, that's a lot of power. And
Jack Lloyd was here to represent one of the dispensary owners that got busted, and he lost court of Manawaki.
Pretty sure that Jack doesn't practice law in Quebec.
He came and defended one of our community members, and he ended up getting a fine and walking out of there. But I know Jack can't practice in Ottawa, in Ontario.
No, he practices in Ontario. He's my attorney.
Sorry, in Quebec.
But yeah.
He was part of the legal team trying to protect this individual, and we all lost, and we all fought constitutional rights. Everything you're saying, we've done it. We've done it.
And I think it's a different, sorry to cut you off,
No, go
I didn't mean to, and I think it's just a different situation here due to the nature of the cannabis regulations and how Canada kind of took that, it's off our hands and we left it to the provinces, and our situation here in Quebec, and it's all government run. As opposed to in Ontario, you're allowed to have private businesses, so I think that maybe that's why it's so hard for us here.
You would know. You know all the work we
Yeah.
did.
So,
It's not our first meeting.
and also we have some kind of agreement with our police and with the police in town, so I think that is another barrier that we deal with. So.
Well, now we're bringing in outside sources. So everybody had all these meetings. They had all these meetings just amongst themselves, and not explaining Indian law, not explaining our treaties and all that, and not bringing in outside resources to help it. So when I set the goal to only deal with First Nations communities with cannabis, that was in 2021. I made the goal to come here and only deal with First Nations communities, and the reason why is because it's I couldn't do it by myself, so I brought in other people. So like here, I know that I can't open this up by myself. You guys couldn't open it up by yourselves, but together, as a whole, with more than just the people in this room, and we bring in other resources from outside. Ex-National Grand Chief, bring in other respectable resources, okay, and come together and keep building it and coming together as a whole, here pretty quick, we're going to have what we need and what we're looking for. But we can't do it alone, and we can't do it with just the community. We need other people. Yeah, and it definitely can't be a free-for-all.
But you know, again,
I would have never achieved my goal if I didn't bring other people in. Never, 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 never. I was gonna go abide with Ontario and tap out to Ontario government and open up there because my family said we don't want cannabis in KZ. So out of respect, that's where I'm at. And now it's succeeding. But now times are changing.
But your success is showing us that, come on now,
My success is only because I reached out to other people and brought other people in to help.
to educate.
I didn't do it on my own.
To
Okay?
educate law, not just cannabis. They came, Chief Riley, you educate the people about our rights, our indigenous, our sovereign rights. And that's what Kitigan Zibi doesn't understand is it's not about the cannabis, it's about our sovereign rights to operate. And we know this.
Correct. Take cannabis out of the equation. It's just about what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And it's about Section 25 and 35 of the Indian Act of the Canadian Constitution. That's what it is about. It's not about cannabis. Take cannabis out of the equation. Okay. Personally, my personal opinion is that any reservation that allows alcohol to be sold in a reservation in the community, but not cannabis, is completely ass backwards. It's not right. It's not right. Alcohol's messed up my family for generations. You know, my grandfather died with 34 years clean. You know, alcohol's messed up most of our families, and we're selling it on this reserve. But we can't sell cannabis? I never seen my grandmother get smacked in the face at dinner tables because somebody smoked a joint, or seen a woman get beat because somebody smoked a joint. I never witnessed that. Alcohol, though, you do. And we're selling it here in these stores. That's not right. That's not right at all. And I don't agree with that.
But again,
So,
who chooses to drink, can drink.
Right.
Because it's legal. Who chooses to smoke, can smoke because it's legal.
Right.
And there's going to be other things. Now they're microdosing mushrooms. That's going to be the next thing. Like maybe in a few years, but the shops are open. Like we gotta evolve with the times. It's not about weed. It's about our constitutional rights to succeed in this industry.
We have to have a referendum to see how the community feels about it. We don't know.
But legally,
You know, and how I feel, I'm like this.
But Jackie, I was trying to say that legally, I don't need that. It's my sovereign right, it's my constitutional right to be part of this industry on my own land. What we need a referendum for is what people do on bad land. But what I do on my land is my own rights.
So are you doing it?
I'm gonna do it.
190%, you're right about that. You are right about that.
And I want to tell everybody that when they busted me, Kitigan Zibi police, they forgot to write that there was 2 kilos of hash in there. They wrote they took 2 kilos of hash. Like our KZPD are corrupt. Our chief and council, they wanted their own dispensary. So let's be careful here that this is a business, it's an industry, it's our sovereign right to operate.
You know,
Can I ask how many other people that are here today would be interested in planning and opening a dispensary at the same time? Like if there was a group of you that opened together?
If people would open together, I would be for it. If 20 people got together and they said, Anthony, look, we want to open, we're going to follow the Red Feather certification program, we're going to deal exclusively with you, I would support it. And we can open up, and I'll supply all the products, I'll supply the lab reports, I'll make sure everything's good on my end, and we could rock out. That's what I would do.
Well, thank you so much for all this info. I gotta go.
All right, good.
Regards to all of you. Regards to Chief Byler, Tom.
Can you wrap it up?
Yeah.
Go ahead and wrap it up.
All right, guys. So we got all these raffle tickets, right? We're gonna pull 5 of them. Here, we'll let Jackie pull them. Pull 5 tickets.
5 tickets.
Yeah.
2.